Hi, so welcome back to Real Auto Reports. Today we have the long-awaited real video, the real review on this 2013 Toyota RAV4. Now, we looked at this car many months ago out in Phoenix when they did their launch, and that's where you saw our real first impressions. Now we have to jump in the driver's seat and give you the real video, the real review with all the details. So let's get going. Hi, so welcome back. Today we are in the 2013 Toyota RAV4. And what makes this vehicle so interesting and worth talking about, they're all worth talking about, but what's so cool about this particular RAV4 is that for 2013 it has been completely redesigned. And you might have known that. You might have seen the commercials, you might have even seen our real first impressions on the RAV4 from the launch out in Phoenix earlier this year, in the sort of March-April timeframe. It was a very interesting vehicle because it is so different from its predecessors. So what is different about it? Well, a lot of things. A lot of things have changed, including this entire interior cluster. And as well, we have also notice that the outside is so radically different. There's no spare tire on the back for one, so that's something people are going to pick out right away. Also, the front design of the car is more aggressive. It has a kind of split grille and a more angular, I like to say beaky kind of impression, and it actually follows the design language of things like the Camry more than it has in the past. And I think people are going to be polarized by this redesign. They're either going to really like it or really hate it. And the reason why is because this is a vehicle that competes in a very competitive market, the crossover utility vehicle market. It's meant for people who have a need for all-wheel drive or a little bit extra ground clearance or like to sit up higher than, say, a car, but like a Corolla or a Camry. But don't want to go full-size Highlander. And so the other thing that's going to be missing out of this RAV4 for 2013 for people who are diehards is the availability of the additional row in the back, the third row. And you can't get the V6 anymore. Now, it may sound like I'm just ragging on it, but this is why I say this car is so radically different from the previous generation. So in this vehicle, you're going to have a stock standard four-cylinder through all the models, no matter whether it's base or limited, like this limited trim here. That's going to hold true also for the all-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive vehicles. They're all going to have the same motor, but slightly different performance. So like our limited here, which is the top of the range and has the optional seats here that have the additional bolsters. And that's another neat thing about the new option packages is all the different ways you can outfit this RAV4. But you're going to have the stock standard 2.5-liter four-cylinder, 6-speed automatic transmission. And this stock standard four-cylinder is going to give you about 176 horsepower in that range, about, right up there near 180. It's going to do 0 to 60 in about 9 seconds in the all-wheel drive here. And, you're going to see some differences that, like when we're up here in the Rocky Mountain region, we see a little bit different times, a little bit slower typically because of the altitude. But the fuel mileage has significantly improved from the previous generation, and by significant, that's a 1 to 3 mile per gallon spread depending on what options you have. But in this all-wheel drive with the four-cylinder and the 6-speed automatic, which is your normal setup, you're going to see about 22 miles per gallon in town and about 29 out on the freeway, 25 miles per gallon combined. I also think this is an interesting vehicle, though, because of the dramatic shift in quality and perception on the interior. If we talk about the interior, what we're really talking about is a design language that is closer to the new Camry. You've got this nice soft touch ledge here. You've got different colors, the kind of It's a grayish speckled plastic here around the instrument cluster, some nice chrome, the blue trim around the gauges. It's a very nice interior. This 6.1 inch screen for the navigation, which we have in this car, for the whole head unit here, with really everything's powered through their app here at Toyota, the Toyota app suite, which you're going to want to check out. It has some neat features. You can push the app button, and you've got everything from the map, Pandora, weather, fuel prices, Bing, iHeartRadio. It's a really neat system, and it's one that pairs to, can pair to your phone, and there's just a lot of different things you can do with it, including Open Table, which means you can voice-activatedly make reservations while you're headed to dinner. Of course, you've got your steering wheel controls here for your phone, your hang-up, your call, your voice activation, the display button. So no longer do you have the button up in the front of the gauge cluster. Instead, what you have is this display button, like on the Camrys, where it runs through your trip A, B, miles per gallon, your whole trip computer, effectively, and of course the odometer. You're going to have a very large fuel gauge, which I guess it's just there because, they had to fill out the gauges. So you have a very large center speedo. You have your RPM gauge on the left, your fuel gauge on the right, and then, your your digital monochrome was the word I was looking for, gauge cluster under the speedometer that has all of your trip computer, your gear, the outside temperature, and even the coolant temperature in there, which is kind of nice. All of that being in a centered place so you don't have to search around for it. Now you can see we've gotten out on the highway and the road noise gets a little bit louder at speeds of over 65, 65, 70. You will hear the road noise in this car, but it's not deafening. It's probably right about what you would expect in the class, although it might be a little bit better because Toyota does put a pretty big focus on sound deadening. Some other neat options that you can get in the Limited are, of course, the liftgate. So let's take a look at that liftgate feature because that's pretty cool, including the variable height adjustment for how high it opens. All right, so one of the nice things about this redesigned RAV4 is that you have a liftgate as opposed to a swing-out gate of the previous generation. It means that you can get things in a little easier, and you get cool features available like the automatic tailgate opening. And this is a nice feature you see on a lot of vehicles these days, and it's brought the RAV4 into the modern generation. But you'll notice that this goes up pretty high. Well, one of the things you can do is set the height. So I'll drop it, I'll stop it there, and I'll hold 2 seconds. It beeps. Now I'll shut it. Now I say, oh, wait. I want it to open again. So I say, open up. You'll notice that it'll only go up to the height that I set it at. This is great for shorter people, like my mother, and for people who have low garage roofs, so that I actually knew somebody with a BMW where it went all the way up and smacked the top of their garage because they opened it from inside the car and scratched it pretty badly. This is a nice feature, and you can reset it by holding it 2 seconds, it'll beep, and then reshutting or reopening it to where you want it. So anyway, it is a neat feature, and one of the things that I think is nice about it is that it allows you a lot of flexibility, which is all what this RAV4 is about, is flexibility and not having the biggest SUV you can get, but using the space wisely. Okay, so getting back to how this car drives, I actually find that the steering in this car is very nice. You've got a sport mode as well, which changes the way that it shifts and just the personality of the car. So the suspension is going to be a little bit on the stiffer side. It's not going to be what I would consider a luxury suspension, but it is smooth, it soaks up bumps, and it won't rattle your teeth. But it is on the firmer side, I think, of, if you're going to look at comfort versus performance, this vehicle will feel very solid through the corners and does not give you a ton of lean and does not make you feel like it is unwieldy or tall. It feels very much like a car-like drive to me. It's a nice seating position, still more upright than a car, but comfortable. You feel like you can see. And you've got these nice pillars, the design that comes down the hood, kind of reminiscent of the 2009 Maxima design that they're still holding on to over at Nissan, where it has that scoop in the hood. This doesn't have the scoop, but it does have the strong arches that come down the fender line off of this A-pillar, and it actually lets you see where the edges of the vehicle are very easily. So it's something that I really like. I also like that when you're driving this car, you have the option of the blind spot monitoring, which we have here in the limited all-wheel drive. You also have cross-path detection when you put it in reverse, and of course the rear view screen when you put it in reverse here on the color screen. And I like how crisp it is. It is a nice crisp screen, and we think they've done a really nice job outfitting the whole car to be intelligible, easy to use, and easy to see out of. The only real blind spot on this car is really in that back right corner where well, at least for me at my height, for shorter people, these pillars might become a little bit unwieldy for them because you'll have some loss of vision up here. But in the back right, you have the headrest for the rear passenger. You do have a window back there, but it's the rear corner pillar that blocks a bit of view back there. But the mirrors are nice and large, and they do make up for it. The other thing I like is that even with the headrests in their position, you have a nice clear view out the rear view mirror here, which is nice. And of course, you have other nice visibility things like you can let more light in with the sunroof. But all in all, I think that this car has a great sense about it. It's comfortable with these upgraded seats with the added bolsters so they really hold you in the chair. It doesn't have some of the fancier options like adaptive cruise control, but it does have things like memory seats in this limited package. So for about $32,000 as tested, this vehicle is very well equipped, heated leather seats up front here. And I think that, and I say leather, they're actually a different material. They're a synthetic material, but I like the fact that they have heated seats up here in the front. You've got easy access to your USB port and your aux port. You also have a cigarette lighter right there in the front in the dash, and of course the easy to reach eco and sport mode. And for all of you that know Toyotas, the eco mode will just reduce the accelerator responsiveness so that you drive more efficiently and get better gas mileage. And if you tromp down on the accelerator, you're going to get it to downshift. Now that brings me to one of, I guess, my last points really about this car. It's a dramatic redesign. Again, I think it's polarizing for the Toyota community because I think if you love the old RAV4, you're going to miss the sliding back seats for the middle row here or the standard row, but you are going to retain the reclining seats in this model. I think the automatic liftgate is neat instead of the swing out gate that the previous generation had, and that gives you that automatic liftgate as well. So the last thing I'll say is that just the 4-cylinder versus the 6 option, since you can't get the 6 anymore, the thing that you're going to notice is that this 4-cylinder is a little less peppy sometimes. It has some flat spots in the torque curve, but all in all, it's a pretty nice drive, and I think people should take it out and give it a chance. We'll have the real wrap-up coming up next. All right, so that is the real video, the real review on this 2013 Toyota RAV4. Now, what is interesting about this vehicle is it is pretty much the top of the line. And we looked at the same limited when we did our real first impressions video out in Phoenix when they launched this vehicle in our region here. What is neat is that it has things like the automatic liftgate. It has decent miles per gallon, especially in this all-wheel drive model, with 22 in the city and 29 out on the highway. 25 combined, which is really only a mile per gallon less than the front-wheel drive version. So you can see that it's getting really decent economy, and you'll still get up to speed fairly well with 0 to 60 speeds just under that 9-second range, which is
better than the previous generation 4-cylinder. So all in all, from 12 to 13, this vehicle has seen a radical redesign, a very different front impression as well as rear impression. There's no spare tire in the back door, but all in all, Toyota tells us that this vehicle can carry more, is more comfortable for passengers, and indeed we've found with our 6'2" passengers that you can indeed get in and out of the back seat. I like what Toyota's done with this vehicle, but I do think it's very a redesign for the times, because this vehicle with this more beaky front, pitched front end with the slope and the way that they've done the split grille is very much a vehicle of its time and of the design language of the last few years, especially when you look at vehicles that have been around for a while like the Murano or something like even the Land Rover Evoque has this more raked back and pitched sense in this CUV market. But nice car, reliable Toyota, and the interior really has seen an improvement from previous generations. Looks a lot higher end. At about, $32,000 is tested. It's still pretty pricey for a CUV, and there's a lot of other vehicles you can cross-shop with, so make sure you check out the landscape pretty well, like your Ford Escapes and your vehicles from Hyundai and Kia, where you're going to have a lot of luxury for a very good price. So that's the Real Video right here at Real Auto Ranch. I'm Jonathan McGrew, and we'll see you down the road.